to EVTN News. We're tracking Vigano's every move, and there was a lot of moves to track this week. Well, not really. We're not really tracking every move, but we're tracking all the letters, and he wrote 3 letters this week. We're not going to cover all of them, but did either of you have a favorite? I'll start with Brett. Did you have a favorite letter that Vigano wrote this past week? Oh, by the way, all 3 are linked in the description below.
I think my favorite was everyone's favorite, the open letter to confused priest. Vigano is, because the situation with the Pope is so dire, he's just throwing bombs now.
Yeah.
And because he has to, because the Pope is taking us someplace where he wants to go, but it has nothing to do with Catholicism. Mm-hmm. So, my favorite part of the letter was when Vigano wished the Pope a short and happy life. Emphasis on short, because he doesn't see any way out. He's the Pope. The Pope is judged by no one, and the Pope is a heretic, and that's it. So that was my fave. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
Ryan?
I agree with that one. That was the middle one on our list. The first one was on the occasion of the 25th day of consecrated life, which I haven't read. That came out on the 1st. On the 2nd, Candlemas, Remnant published Open Letter to Confused Priests. On the 4th, Catholic Family News published the letter concerning the idolatry of Vatican II. That was probably in response to Pope Francis's statement saying that Vatican II is magisterial, which we've already covered. That's a dead horse. But anyway, I liked the same one that you liked, the Open Letter to Confused Priests, because this was the point in time when I think he has gone full Lefebvre, and he said that the bad guys, including Pope Francis, or as he calls him, Bergoglio. And by the way, I enjoy, if you're going to criticize the Pope, I think it's better, because it's better to criticize the person of Bergoglio.
We respect the papacy.
Yes.
Unlike Bergoglio.
Yes, it's better to criticize the person of Bergoglio rather than the church or the Pope or the papacy or whatever. Because Bergoglio himself, and he points this out, Vigano does, is that it's now become, Bergoglio is using the papacy as a tool, as a toy, and he's not using it as his identity or as an instrument, as a shepherd, as a pastor, as a father. And instead he uses it as a wrecking ball. And so don't acknowledge that he's, I'm not saying he's not Pope. What I am saying is that when he uses the papacy badly, we need to make a distinction between the papacy, the Pope, and Bergoglio.
Well, isn't that an Italian thing, though, where the Italians always refer to the Pope as the last name?
That is true, but he calls Benedict and not Ratzinger, even though he quit, even though he should be Ratzinger.
Quitter!
Quitter! That's a whole other show which we did. We did that show.
So I did want to point out the final letter that he released on the 4th concerning the idolatry of Vatican II. There's some pretty strong language, and I'm not talking about it might be offensive, but offensive to the people that should probably hear it. So I'd encourage you to check that one out. It's a short one. And also, talking about Vatican II, I mean, we talked about it last show, but you know what? I'm really getting sick of Vatican II. The election's over, and so Taylor Marshall, Tim Gordon, and Reason and Theology, they all released videos on Vatican II. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care, and apparently these guys don't either.
It was 60 years ago.
Yeah.
The Beatles were number one.
We discussed it. There was a Taylor Marshall highlight where he spent, thank goodness, only 7 minutes. The highlight was condensed, talking about Vatican II. He went over the main point, which was the whole thing about Buddhism, that they can reach enlightenment through their own means, and asked the question, is this what Pope Francis means when he says magisterial? That is the perfect response, and it took 7 minutes. To go and digest this anymore is a complete and utter waste of time. You're better off washing the dishes, washing your car, taking a nap. It's a total waste of time because we're, as you said, 60 years into this, and we're still talking about Vatican II. Is it a problem? Is it not a problem? To quote Hillary Clinton, what difference does it make? And to quote Father Canon Gregory Hesse, Forget Vatican II. Put it on a bumper sticker. Forget Vatican II. Move on. It's over.
Next up, rainbow agenda and virus religion in the Orthodox Church. Over to you, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks, John. This just came up this week. You may have seen a piece on LifeSite shortly after the events of January 6th, and I don't mean the Epiphany. Something that happened in Washington, D.C. But there was an Eastern Orthodox priest who belongs to the OCA, which is the Orthodox Church in America. And he went to that event, and then somebody saw him there. He didn't do anything besides attend this event and pray, and he's gotten suspended. Now, people have looked into this and they've said, well, wait a minute. Is the Orthodox Church in America, so-called, now, and it is, it's now supporting the rainbow agenda and the virus religion. So the name of the church should be changed to the Orthodox Virus Church of America, or the Orthodox Rainbow Church of America. And this was pointed out by, I'll send you the link in the description. I don't remember the particular website on which I found this. But in the OCA, they have priests in canonical good standing who on their Twitter, blogs, and social medias are promoting the rainbow agenda, okay? And their bishops have done nothing to censor these guys or tell them to stop. Now you have a priest who writes for LifeSite, mainstream pro-life, anti-abortion newspaper publication, and he attends a rally or whatever, which is not whatever. It's not significant, but that is the straw. That's a bridge too far, and we have to shut this priest down. But meanwhile, they're tolerating the rainbow agenda priests in their own ranks. Here's another thing. This is the jurisdiction that led the way in the virus religion in doing the shutdown, okay? And we talked about I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago when we recorded a show about which Reason and Theology covered, that there was a bishop, perhaps an archbishop, call him a virus archbishop, archvirus bishop, whatever he is, in Texas, who denounced the website Orthodox Ethos, which I watch, and I don't know if you've checked it out.
I checked it out.
They have a good YouTube channel as
They
well,
do.
Father Peter Hears, who has led the way from the eastern flank, the Eastern Orthodox Church, in the fight against the virus. From day one, he has been fighting against the virus and saying that you cannot close the churches. God has rights and he deserves, we are obliged to worship him, and this virus, forget it.
Do we believe that as Catholics?
I do.
Okay.
The Catholic Church believes that.
Yes,
I don't know what
okay.
the guys pretending to be bishops are pretending or teaching, or what what Bergoglio is teaching.
So this is authentic, spontaneous, antiviral ecumenism.
It is, yes.
I never knew I was for ecumenism.
We didn't even have a prayer meeting. We didn't even hold potted plants in Assisi. But we are all in agreement, that the virus religion needs to go. So Father Peter Hears and his website Orthodox Ethos got denounced by this archvirus bishop of the Orthodox Virus Church of America in Texas. Reason and Theology did a whole program about it, which I don't know what direction in terms of the virus religion Reason and Theology is going, but it seems to me like they're heading in the wrong direction. So this archvirus bishop of Texas has condemned also RussianFaith.com, which is a good Eastern Orthodox website. They're against the rainbow agenda. They're against the virus religion.
They're against BLM.
BLM. So it's a very good website in English. And then there's another good Eastern Orthodox antivirus, anti-rainbow agenda website called Provmir. I think it's .com is the English version of it. Yeah, and we read news on there. So again, you have this, you can see in Eastern Orthodoxy, same thing in Catholicism. You have the two churches, the virus, rainbow regime, and then the actual Christ-centered regime that's focused on true, authentic worship and the Catholic Orthodox faith. And it's now apparent to all. So, again, John could put that link in the description and you can read about this double standard, and you'll see the disgusting social media posts of this so-called Orthodox LGBT rainbow priest and the things that he's talking about. But he's in good canonical status. Remember that. And that leads us into a topic which we'll talk about at the end of the show, and that's Father James Martin and all that stuff. But anyway, stay tuned for that.
Catholic News Agency ran an article about, it was titled, "Will Cupich be promoted to the prefect of the Congregation of Bishops?" Over to you, Ryan.
I think that the Francis Bergoglio would like to do that, but I think if he did that, he would lose a lot of influence in the American church. So I think Cupich is just too important for him right now. I don't think he'll do it. Brett?
He would like to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Cupich wants to get promoted, but he does not play well with others. And Francis, I think Francis sat him down and said, "Hey, we got this whole thing here. We just need you to behave so we can slip you in. You got to make some friends."
Yeah.
So I think that was a little pat on the back for him. But Cupich, God bless him, he's not the brightest bulb. He's powerful. He's opinionated, but he's not bright. So, I think he won't be able to follow that advice.
Well, and this is surprising to me that Catholic News Agency would run speculation like this, because this is really the first article I've noticed. I mean, maybe they've run speculation articles before, but this is, I don't know if they have a source close to the situation or what, but they also even speculated, if Cupich moves to Rome, then McElroy is likely to take over his bishop's position in Chicago. And I was like, well, that's a lot of speculation, isn't it?
What about Barron? Come on, he could go back there.
To Chicago?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, Barron's not radical enough.
That might be what they're thinking. But I think that you asked the question, why are they speculating? I think that this might be a trial balloon that they're putting out there and seeing what is the opinion of the other bishops. Because we know that Tomato Cupich is really unpopular with the USCCB bishops. Even in that place, he's seen as an outcast, as too radical, who doesn't play well with others. He's never won an election for anything at the USCCB level.
He must be really personally not nice.
Yeah. And so, perhaps...
Just ask Father Paul Kalchik how nice he is.
Yeah.
Well, there are a specific group of bishops that like Cupich, but... Yeah.
No, they agree with him. They don't like him. Nobody. His mama doesn't like him. Your mama don't like you, Cupich.
There's a distinction between liking him and liking his positions.
Yes.
Well, maybe they're using him to...
Useful idiot. Yes.
Yeah,
to advance their way up the ranks. Playing off of this, Pope Francis appointed a woman as an undersecretary at the Synod of Bishops. Do either of you have a reaction to that?
I'm against it.
Well,
she's not a bishop. I'm not a bishop. I'd like to vote in one of these synods.
Yeah.
What about you, Ron? Would you like to vote in the synod?
I would like to vote in a synod, yes.
Okay. How about you, John? Would you like to vote in the synod?
sure. Well, and...
Are you as good as a bishop? Personally, I mean, they put their cassocks on one leg at a time, right?
who am I to judge?
Well,
but
true.
I think with this woman, I know plenty of women who I'd like to appoint new bishops, but none of them have a Jesuit education, and none of them are a social justice nun who doesn't wear a habit. So,
well, if the nun's not wearing a habit,
No, she's not.
She's basically just dressed like any other women that you know. So what's the difference? The
Well-
Jesuit education.
all right. So Ryan, you have a remark about the undersecretary?
Yes, I think that this is extremely problematic. Why have they made a woman a secretary? This just reinforces gender norms. As if she's going to be wearing this short skirt and putting her legs up on the desk and using finagling thing. It's just this dynamic of
Horrifying.
Plus, she's the undersecretary, which means
horrible.
that she's below some. There's a man.
What is this, Mad Men?
It is. It's like Mad Men. Why? She should be. A woman must be made president. This is what the bad guys are going to say. She must be made president of the Synod of Bishops, and if she's made president, why, she should be a bishop.
Well, if she votes like a bishop, well, what's the difference?
Maybe the headline should have been Pope Francis reinforces gender stereotypes.
There are nuns, and then there are nuns. And we go to the National Catholic Distorter to tell us the difference. Ryan?
Thanks, Brett. For some reason, I don't know why, but I was on the National Catholic Schismatical Distorter website. Maybe it was linked from some story or whatever. I think it was on Remnant, actually, is where I saw it. And whoever the author was, some crazed individual, has said that all those women, those nuns who attended the Trump rally on January 6th, they were not actually real nuns, despite the fact that they were dressed like nuns and were there and in a habit and belonged to a community. Why, it doesn't count, because they don't have, we call the diocese, and they don't have a canonical status, which means they're not real. So,
Illusions.
Exactly. Let's talk about the difference between a real nun, according to the distorter, and a fake nun. Okay. So, if you wear a habit and you live in the community and live a rule of prayer and are in vows, that's not real. That's a fake nun.
Yes.
But a real nun is a woman who lives on her own, doesn't wear a habit, doesn't believe the doctrines of the church, but does have a canonical status. That is a real nun. So the only thing that makes the nun is that piece of paper, that canonical statement that says, you are an official nun. Now,
did they have to carry that on them at all
that's
times?
a good question. The police, the canonical police, pull them over, and they have their hand on their gun. They're about ready to pull, and they say, canonical registration papers and driver's license, please. And they have to pull it out. And then if they don't have their canonical papers,
That's up to the penitentiary.
the slammer, they're excommunicated from the Francis Church. But now we're supposed to be against this legalism and rigidity and clericalism, but somehow the only thing that's important is that piece of paper that says canonical status.
That's kept in a file somewhere. It's not actually on their person.
Yeah, I can't.
So you can't always tell if that nun is a nun. If that sister is a sister.
Exactly. You could
Certainly
be,
not by looking at them.
I could be in a religious order, in vows. All of us could be. Maybe we are, and we haven't told you. Secrets. But we, if we really were, we would have that very important piece of paper that said canonical status. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that is the only thing that matters.
What are your credentials?
Yeah!
What are our credentials?
I have a canonical status, I'll have you know.
We'll have credentials yet. You just wait.
Speaking of Father James Martin, he's had a very busy week, and I'll turn it over to Brett to tell you a little more about that.
Well, Father James Martin, who I like to think of as the anti-Vigano, he's been a busy guy this week. First of all, he offended the whole nation of Poland by saying that the black lady should be portrayed with a rainbow because it makes rainbow people feel good, even though it's a horrid blasphemy. But just ignore that. That's one thing he did this week.
Well, and that's Our Lady of Czestochowa that you're
Thank you.
referring to.
Thank you.
I believe there was an apparition of Our Lady of Czestochowa, and I'll have to do a little more research into that, but it's a very popular devotion
It's
in
a very
Poland.
important devotion in Poland, and they think, rightfully so, that's blasphemy. And let me just say this about that. The rainbow is ours. The rainbow is God's sign to his people that he's only going to destroy the world one more time, and it won't be by a flood. It's his sign to us that he's there to save us. It's not about your sexual proclivity. So
Yeah.
that's me. Moving on. Father James Martin is making a movie with a Jewish male fellow who's married to a Catholic male fellow. Of course, they're not really married, but they think they are in their minds. Well, anyway, the film is called Wonderfully Made. Run out and see it by all means. Please don't.
No.
It's about, poor, pitiful rainbow people and how they're so, they have nothing to look forward to in their lives because, they're dedicated to their sin, apparently. I don't know, but he's all for it. He did a big interview for it, and he's all excited about it. And he's also excited about his new book. His new book is called How Heretics Pray.
How to pray.
How to pray.
And it got an endorsement by Bishop Barron.
Yes.
Which I did a video on that. If you haven't watched
wow.
that video, take a look. He
I'm
calls
shocked.
Father James Martin a winsome guide to the faith. Which winsome, I mean, I looked it up and it said winsome means attractive either in character or physical appearance. And I said, that's a pretty poor choice of words. Especially knowing who you're talking about.
Yeah. But for him, you know, and James Martin has cleverly repackaged the teachings of Saint Ignatius Loyola but Saint Ignatius Loyola, I guess he gets the money. I don't know. I mean, not personally, but I guess the order gets the money because they, of course, the Jesuits talked about poverty, and they said, well, you know, just because you know, we run universities and we always know where our next meal is coming from, doesn't mean we don't believe in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
That was so, you know, that's what he put out.
Wow.
But so James Martin, quite busy, and I'm sure he's still a little worried about that new guy in the dicastery of communication in the Vatican, the guy, the 40-year-old something who has the eye of the Pope.
Yeah, whoever's running the show there.
Yes, because he took over the dicastery, and Francis is all upset because he did 3 interviews in a week and nobody paid any attention, and 2 of them were with this guy, and
So
he didn't tell anybody else.
Okay.
So he's the new boy in town, and we're pulling for James.
Yeah.
We like him, and as we've said before, welcome to the Vatican, Archbishop Martin.
This has been EVTN News, tracking Vigano's every move. Not really. Until next time, we are the laity.
And we will not be silent.